Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Today's video is going to be a video about Hailey Bieber. And the reason why I wanted to make this video is because I've had a bit of a little series going on my channel where I talk about people have had, there's been like rumblings about these people, and I think that Hailey is one of those people who not many people have made a video about her, but there's been rumblings about her, and so I've decided I'm going to make a video about her and I'm going to talk about her. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about kind of her career, how she's been viewed in the public eye, and just different criticisms that people have of her, my opinion of her. And I want to make something abundantly clear before we get this video started. I'm going to say this right now. I love her. I'm a stan. I've been a fan of Hailey since 2015. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to hide things from you. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to talk about her scandals, which she has a big scandal that we're going to talk about and we're going to discuss. And that doesn't mean that I'm going to sit here and try to make you love her. And, I'm not going to do all that. I like her. If you don't, then leave your reason in the comment section below. But what we're not going to do is we're not going to put anyone down for their opinion. So just be mindful that this is all just my opinion. This isn't me doing investigative journalism. This isn't CNN. This isn't, this whole page is extremely biased. My whole channel is extremely biased because it's talking about my opinion, which is inherently biased. So yeah, I shouldn't have to give a disclaimer on bias on a channel called Opinionated, but hey, here we are. So before I do get into it, please go ahead and give this video a big thumbs up. Go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Turn on the post notifications so that you're notified of the next time that I post a video. And follow me on Twitter. My Twitter will be in the description below. And I just want to say I'm very sorry that my posting has been not as consistent as it was being, a few months ago. I just have a lot of homework, a lot of work things, and just a lot on my plate right now. And it's like, I love making videos, so I hate not being able to make videos. But hopefully I can at least get one video up a week. I want to make it at least 2 videos. But right now it seems like I've been able to just do 1. So please bear with me, and I'm going to try to get it up as school goes on and as my workload gets a little lighter. But I do want to apologize for that, and hopefully it gets better in the near future. Anyways, with all that being said, let's go ahead and get into the video. So who is Hailey Bieber? Born Hailey Baldwin, Hailey Bieber is a 24-year-old model. She is from New York, and she is the daughter of Stephen Baldwin, who is a pretty well-known actor, and he is brothers with Alec Baldwin, who is obviously kind of like a huge Hollywood legend. So she was born into a pretty famous, pretty wealthy family. Though she wasn't actually raised in the spotlight. Her dad kind of, retired from Hollywood for a while she was growing up. So she wasn't really exposed to the Hollywood lifestyle that a lot of other kids of actors and actresses might usually be. A little known fact that I think is pretty interesting is that Hailey grew up as a ballerina. So for several years of her life, of her childhood, she was doing ballet. And you can look up like some of her performances. I don't know anything about ballet, but from what I can see, it looked pretty legit. She really was a ballerina. But she had, I think like a foot or like leg injury that basically ended her ballet career. And that's when she actually got into modeling. So modeling wasn't, I don't think I've heard interviews where she basically said that modeling wasn't really the first thing that she wanted to do. But she kind of got into it later, in her life, when she was a teenager. The way that I found out who Hailey was really just on social media. At the time, around like 2014, I was a huge fan of Kylie Jenner because I just loved her style. I've talked about this in a video from like pretty long ago, but I talked about how I loved Kylie's style. And because of that, I used to follow her a lot on social media. I used to look at her Tumblr and just all of the pictures that she would post with her friends. And Hailey was always on her page, or, Hailey was always kind of around. Hailey has a lot of socialite friends. She's best friends with Kendall Jenner and just all of these different socialites. They kind of all are in the same circle because they're all rich, famous kids who grew up with rich, famous parents. So they all kind of connected in that way. And I think that there's a group that's been kind of like growing up together that no one really talks about. No one really talks about the fact that like all of these people kind of have taken over the celebrity / influencer realm. Honestly, they're kind of in the same position that Paris Hilton was at one point. But maybe that's another video for another day. But anyways, that's kind of how I found Hailey. And then of course, she really piqued my interest, and I really started to like know who was this girl when she started to hang around Justin Bieber, who is obviously her husband now. If you don't know, I'm a huge Bieber stan. So as soon as he started being around her, which was like late 2014, early 2015, that's when I really started to pay attention to who she was. And at that time, they were just friends, but I really liked her. I always liked her. I always thought that she seemed like just a pretty cool, down-to-earth person. And the thing about Hailey that I find really interesting is that, to me, she doesn't really seem like, and this is just my opinion, but it doesn't really seem like she's trying too hard to be cool or different or out there or artsy or anything like that. Sometimes with some of these socialites that she's friends with and some of the people that kind of run in that circle, I feel like they try a little too hard to be artsy and different because people like to put the label on them that they've only gotten to where they are because of nepotism, and that they aren't really about their passion for the arts, and they don't really care about the careers that they have in modeling and in fashion and just all of these different, kind of creative industries. But Hailey, the reason why I liked her is just because she just seemed like a cool girl who was just kind of around, and she just seemed like she was running through, the streets of New York and LA and just hanging out and doing modeling. And she just didn't seem like she was trying too hard to prove herself to that many people. So that's why I really liked her. And that's why I still like her. I still feel like she kind of gives off that energy, kind of more down to earth, not really trying to prove too much to people type energy that I really resonate with. So now let's just start talking about the criticisms that people have of Hailey, because a lot of people have had things to say about Hailey. And I think a lot of people have had a lot of snarky things to say about her, though in my opinion, I don't really think that they're really deserved. She's a pretty quiet person. She doesn't really do much. I will get into what she has done. But she does, in my opinion, she doesn't do half the things that a lot of other celebrities have done. And yet people have a lot of things to say about her. And one of the main criticisms that people have about her is about her modeling. People say that she is a bad model. A lot of people say that she looks boring. A lot of people say that she just doesn't look like a model. Hailey is about 5'7", so she's not as tall as a lot of other models, like Kendall Jenner's like 5'11", or Gigi Hadid, or any other model like Naomi Campbell or something like that. She's on the shorter side. She doesn't have the same kind of proportions that a lot of these others women do, even though in my opinion, she's pretty thin. So I'm like, if she doesn't make the cut, like who does? I don't get it. But a lot of people have said that basically she's only a model because of nepotism. People say that she's only a model because of her last name. And they have the same criticism with people like Kendall Jenner. They don't really have it with the Hadids, which is interesting to me because the Hadids have more money than they've had. Like, they grew up rich. Like, they didn't come out of nowhere. Their mother was also a model. But for some reason, the Hadids don't get that criticism as much as like Kendall Jenner, Hailey Bieber, and just other celebrities who, or models who are the daughters of celebrities. This, in my opinion, has always been an invalid criticism for a couple of reasons. One, she can't help the fact that her father is Stephen Baldwin. Like, she can't help that. Just because so she should just not want to be a model because you're going to say it's nepotism? Like, what is she supposed to do about that? Like, she can't do anything. She can't change the fact that her dad is Stephen Baldwin. She can't change the fact that her uncle is Alec Baldwin. And, now she can't change the fact, like, if she could, I'm sorry, but if you could, you would marry Justin Bieber too. So a lot of people are now saying, that she's getting a lot of attention because her last name is Bieber and she married Justin Bieber. It's not her fault he proposed to her. Like, what do you think happened? What do you think? She didn't propose to him. He proposed to her. Like, I'm sorry. I don't feel like that's a valid criticism to say that she's only getting jobs because of nepotism. Another thing is that modeling is subjective. Modeling is the most subjective, in my opinion, the most subjective career, like, on the planet. If we're going to talk about someone looking boring, then why should we make the modeling industry inclusive at all? I mean, to say that someone looks boring is very, first of all, it's very offensive. It's very rude. It's kind of disgusting behavior to say that someone looks boring, or that someone is ugly, or that someone, doesn't look like a model. Well, what does look like a model? Now you're feeding into the same stereotypes, the same type of standards that I thought that we were trying to break down. If we're trying to break down the standards, the toxic modeling industry standards that have been in place for decades, then why are we excluding Hailey Bieber from that? Because she's shorter than a lot of the other models. She's not as thin as a lot of the other models. She might be thin, but she's not as thin. Does her body type not matter too? If we're going to be inclusive, then be inclusive to all body types, all faces, all everything, all skin tones, all everything. Because it's all beautiful. And I truly believe that. I believe that the modeling industry should, of course, be inclusive. But that also means being inclusive to girls who look like Hailey. And even though she might meet a lot of Eurocentric beauty standards, she doesn't meet all of the beauty standards that they have in the modeling industry. But people will use that to attack her and to criticize her. And I think that that's wrong. Also, again, like I said, modeling is very subjective. So brands are going to hire people who are going to sell their clothing. At the end of the day, this is not art. Like, I don't know who brainwashed y'all into thinking that we don't live in a capitalist society, but we do. You might think, oh, this is art. Oh, this Gucci fashion show, this is art. Baby, they are trying to make money. That dress is sold for $12,000. What you think that this is not art? This is making money. This is just it's an industry. So they're going to get people in their fashion shows. They're going to get people on their campaigns. They're going to put people on their magazines who are going to sell their products. And if Hailey can sell their products, whether it be through her name, whether it be through her look, whether it be through anything, whether it be a combination of all of those things, then they're going to hire her. Plain and simple. And if you want to make a fashion line and you don't want to hire her because you think that she looks boring, go ahead. But at the end of the day, it's very subjective. And if she's a bad model, if she's not doing her job well, then she wouldn't be getting hired. Clearly, she's doing her job well. I don't know why people are trying to make it seem like modeling is something that it's not. That modeling is somehow more than what it really is. Because at the end of the day, it's subjective. So I feel like that criticism is absolute baloney. I've never agreed with it, and I've always thought that it just didn't make any sense, especially for how much people want to preach about inclusivity and want to preach about how everyone is beautiful until it comes to Hailey Bieber. Keep that same energy. So next, and this is the main criticism that I feel like is definitely deserved. Hailey, at one point in time, I think when she was a teenager, she tweeted some things and commented the N-word on Instagram. She did do that. And she tweeted some things that were racist. And I'm just going to go ahead and put those up on the screen right now. So let's talk about these screenshots, which, by the way, I've made a video talking about this before, but I will go ahead and talk about it again if you have not seen that video. But basically, she's tweeted, racist and ignorant things. And at that time, she was about 12 to 13, 14 years old. the dates are on the tweets. You can look them up if you want to. But and then the comment, I'm pretty sure she was also like a teenager. I'm actually like 100% sure she was definitely like a teenager. And she's actually using, if you look, she's using the N-word with her black friend who was also like part of that socialite group that I talked about earlier in the video. He used to be really, really like close to Kylie Jenner and like Kendall Jenner and all of that. So I knew exactly who that was. Yeah, I was like very deep into their friend group. I was like obsessed. But here's how I feel. This is how I've always felt about tweets and situations like this, because this type of stuff comes up a lot. I think that yes, she was wrong, dead wrong. Yes, she was ignorant, straight up ignorant. Do I think that she's racist? No, I don't. She was like 13, 14. 13, 14-year-olds will say stuff like this because they like to get reactions out of people. They know that what they're saying is wrong. There's no justification because they know what they're saying is wrong, but they like to get reactions out of people. That's really what it boils down to. 13 and 14-year-olds like to get attention. 13 and 14-year-olds like to, just be out there. Y'all know that y'all were like this back then too. Did you use racial slurs? I didn't, so we can't really say that, but I regret a lot of things that I said at that age too. Do I think that she should apologize? Absolutely. For the N-word usage, absolutely. But do I believe that all people who use the N-word are necessarily racist, especially in the context in which she used it? No. I've said that on my channel before. I'll say it again. I don't believe that everyone who uses the N-word in that way is racist. Do I believe that they are ignorant and wrong and owe the Black community an apology? Absolutely, 100% yes. But do I believe that a teenager, a 16-year-old teenager, using the N-word, especially like where I grew up at my high school, it was common for non-Black people to use the N-word all the time. And I know that they're not racist. Like, I just know it. And so from that experience, I've come to realize that it's not as black and white as people like to make it out to be. So I don't think that she's racist. A lot of people have said that she's racist. However, if you believe that she is racist, right, that is your opinion. I'm not going to sit here and tell you to stan her because what she said was wrong. Do I believe that it's necessarily a fair criticism of her, considering the fact that she wasn't even a legal adult at the time? No, I kind of don't think that it's necessarily that fair because she was like 13, 14. But am I going to tell you that you have to forgive her or that you have to get over the fact that she said these things? No, that's not really my place. But just as it's not my place to tell you to get over it, it's not your place to tell others that they have to hold this against her, especially because of her age. I think that's the main thing. I think that my criticism of people, a lot of the times when situations like this arise is, okay, how far along in life were you? What age were you at? Like, what maturity level were you at? And clearly, these are the only instances, right? She's 24 now, right? So after this is almost 10 years ago. In between that time, you've seen nothing from her, like nothing. There's no instances of racism, ignorance, nothing. So in my opinion, it seems that she's grown up, she's matured, she understands that she shouldn't act like this, and she's done what everyone does, and she figures it out at some point. So I don't think that she's currently racist. Was she racist back then? I don't even believe that she was racist back then. But I'm not going to tell you to get over it. I'm not going to tell you how to feel, especially if you're part of a community that she insulted. I'm just not going to do that. However, here's what I will say. If you are the type of person to defend 25-year-old YouTubers who were like 25 at the time when they did blackface in their videos, and you're gonna say that it's dark humor. If you're going to defend PewDiePie for screaming the N-word with a hard R and during a live stream a couple of years ago, and he was definitely like 20, at least in his like 20s, at least in his mid 20s when he did that. If you're going to defend them, then you legitimately have no reason, no right to come at Hailey. Just period. If you're the type of person to talk about how, oh, dark humor was acceptable back then you better not say anything about her. Just stay consistent, at least. That's all I beg, is that people stay consistent. And lastly, Hailey gets the most criticism about this one thing about her. And in my opinion, this is the dumbest of all of the criticism that she gets. And it's from a certain group of people, and it's relentless. This girl gets constant hate. Like, she gets hate that is so ruthless sometimes that I wonder how people sleep at night knowing that they can put that type of energy out into the world. Like, I'm sorry, but I believe in God, and I believe that, like, if I do something like that, if I say something like that, like, something bad is going to happen to me. Like, people at least should believe in like some type of karma, some type of like you're going to get. So I don't understand how people sleep at night saying the type of stuff that they say about her. I've seen some of the most disgusting things on the planet. Like, legit, I've never seen more disgusting tweets in my life, honestly. And they're about her. And they're from a certain group of people who are fans of a certain someone, and that person will be named later in the video. But Hailey, obviously her last name is Bieber, so obviously she's married to a Justin Bieber. And like I said earlier in the video, Hailey, she kind of got to be known by a lot of people, not just by me, because she was around Justin Bieber. And this was right at the time, and this is kind of important to mention, when she started to really hang around Justin, it was at a pivotal point where Justin had just kind of he was just getting out of the bad boy phase. He had gotten arrested in, I think, early 2014. Yeah, at the beginning of 2014. And then from 2014 to 2015, there was definitely a shift. He had gone through that phase, and then by the beginning of 2015, he was in a much better place. He had dropped journals, and I think he dropped, now I have to really think about this. I think that he dropped journals in 2015, I believe. And during that whole entire year, she was around. So it seemed like, she had become part of his like most inner circle. And at that time, a lot of people started to kind of think that they were together, even though they denied it a lot. And, but she was just always around. And one thing that they mentioned in their Vogue interview that they did was the fact that Hailey was really around during the rough of it. She was really around during his sobriety. And one thing about Hailey is that her dad actually was addicted to drugs at one point. And so she was really fervent about having a clean lifestyle. She's also a Christian, and he's also a Christian. So they had that, kind of religious ties. And so they formed a very strong bond that then became romantic at one point. And during this entire time, he was still very much tied to Selena Gomez. Now, at that time, Jelena stans were still they're still active, alive, and very well, unfortunately. But at that time, there was still this huge craze about this relationship that had honestly ended a few years prior. And so when people saw that this new girl was constantly around, she wasn't kind of one of those girls that was going through the revolving door of girls that he was kind of seen with. She was always around him. They got really upset about that. And so it became, we're going to attack this girl. And it has been ruthless and consistent attacks for about 6 years. Ever since she was introduced, It has been ruthless and consistent for 6 years. Now, a lot of people say that basically she was only with Justin because she's trying to social climb, going back to the whole nepotism thing, going back to the whole, she's a bad model, so she needs to be around famous people thing. A lot of people have that type of criticism with her, which I don't think is valid at all, especially considering the fact that like he proposed to her. Like it's not like, he's like a 80-year-old guy who is basically, he doesn't have the capabilities of understanding that this girl doesn't want him. Like he clearly is of his right mind. They clearly have a relationship, and per the Vogue interview that they did and per other interviews and other things that he said, she was really around through the rough of it. Like it wasn't, oh, she's just around to be a social climber. No, she was around when things were rough for him. And you can't really say that about a lot of the other girls that he was with. And honestly, if we're going to be completely honest here, you can't really say that about Selena Gomez. Now, maybe it's because after their breakup, that's what triggered him to go through that whole spiral. That could completely be true. But it seems like Hailey was really there for him. And they were really best friends. So the whirlwind romance that they had in 2018, that was not based off of nothing. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people thought, oh, he just proposed to this girl after 3 months of dating her. How could he do that to Selena? Which that doesn't make any sense. But not knowing that he's known Hailey for like 10 years at least. He's known Hailey for a long time. They'd always kind of been around each other. Again, she was always in that circle of friends, and they had always kind of been around Justin. She'd been around at least since 2015, and then they dated in 2016. Things kind of went south for them, but they rekindled, and that's just kind of how it happened. So I don't see how that can be translated into, oh, she's using him for his fame. She wasn't around him for years. Like, they weren't around each other between like 2016 and 2018. They weren't around each other for like 2 years at all. And she was still doing her thing. She had like a TV show at one point. She was doing her thing. And it had nothing to do with Justin. So you can't really make that argument that she's using him for his fame, that she's using him for his money, that she's using him for his connections. You can make the argument that she's now more famous because of him. That is completely valid. That makes complete and utter sense. But in my opinion, so is Selena Gomez. But I mean, hey, it is what it is. But that's not her fault. Just like it's not her fault that she's more famous because her dad is Stephen Baldwin and her uncle is Alec Baldwin. Like, she can't really help that. It just kind of happened. And she also, in my opinion, she can't really help who she falls in love with. If she falls in love with Justin Bieber, then it is what it is. And if they fall in love with each other and get married, then it kind of is what it is. That doesn't mean that she's using him for his fame. That's an intentional action. So a lot of people use that against her, and a lot of people have been relentless in reminding her that she is always going to be less than Selena Gomez and constantly comparing the two women. Justin and Hailey have been married for 2 years, going on 3 years this year. And since the beginning of their marriage, they have had to defend the fact that they're married from people who don't seem to understand that people can move on if they want to, because it's a free country and people can do what they want to do. Justin has posted multiple messages like this one on Instagram telling people who are allegedly his fans to stop attacking his wife and stop attacking his relationship. I don't know what people think that they're going to gain from this. I don't understand that how people can come to the conclusion that by commenting something on Instagram, he will definitely say, oh yes, I am still in love with Selena Gomez. I take everything that I said back, and I am going to divorce Hailey right now. Like, come on, come on, think, really think. And people also like to say that he doesn't really love Hailey, that he loves Selena. And to that I say, you're disgusting. To try to put someone down in the relationship and tell them that their partner does not love them because of things that you think that you see on social media. I mean, that's horrible, horrible behavior. Sometimes I really wonder how people were raised like that, like how people can be raised well and still go on to say disgusting things like that. Honestly, like, they're not going to get divorced anytime soon. If they do, it's not really anyone's business. But to me, it's clear that they're happy, that they're a happy couple, and that they're in love. The criticisms and just the speculation about how their relationship won't last. This is his longest relationship. Like, he wasn't even with Selena this long. Like, she's here to stay. Sorry to tell you. Like, her last name is Bieber. They're in it for the long run. They're married now. So, like, I just wish that people would grow up. I really, really wish that people would grow up. And I can't imagine how it would feel to be so happily in love, but then to keep being compared to someone else and keep being reminded that you're less than someone else. I feel bad for her because she has to constantly go through that. And at one point, even Selena spoke up and said, hey, like, don't attack someone else. Even though, in my opinion, she, dropping a song like Lose You to Love Me and then you say, oh, don't attack people. Like, come on. You could have just gotten over the relationship, because he's over the relationship. Like, he doesn't talk about you anymore. So why are you talking about him? But hey, whatever. Even Selena said something about it. So clearly it's an issue, and I think that it gets to her in a lot of ways, and I think that it hurts her confidence. She's talked about how, like, people have hurt her confidence, which then goes back to modeling and her not being as confident as a model, and it kind of permeates through the rest of her career because people can't seem to get over the fact that Justin Bieber is in love with someone else. So overall, I think that social media has been really unfair to Hailey. I think that Hailey is a pretty good person, in my opinion. She hasn't really done anything, in the past few years, in the past like decade, to really warrant any of the hate that she gets, in my opinion. And in my opinion, she just seems like a solid person who just kind of stays in her own lane, does her own thing, worries about her own relationship, and doesn't bother people. But I think that people want to find reasons to dislike her because of the fact that they feel like she is in the position that she's in because of other people, that she hasn't really worked for what she's had. But she can't really control any of the factors. Like, she can't really control her privilege. She can't control the fact that she was born in a famous family. She can't control any of these factors. So it's just unfair criticism. And in my opinion, I think that she's done, what anyone should do if they're in a position of privilege. They should just continue to, like, keep striving for the best for themselves. Like, I'm not going to knock anyone for being privileged. That doesn't make any sense. They can't control it. Like, I have a certain amount of privilege that I'm happy that I have. And, all I can do is really build on it. Like, I can't give it back. So, I just wish that people would be kinder to her and treat her the way that they treat a lot of other people in the industry. So that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Please enjoy this obligatory picture of Tom Holland as I close out. But yeah, that's the thing about Hailey Baldwin. However, I talked a lot, but I hope you got kind of the main points. And I hope that, maybe you learned something about her, just kind of gained a new perspective. I just feel like not a lot of people talk about her on YouTube. And so I decided, why not? I also have other models that I'd like to talk about, and maybe I'll talk about the kind of socialite group that ruled 2014, because I think that that's a really interesting topic to talk about too. So let me know what you would like to see in the comment section down below. If you did enjoy this video, please go ahead and give it a big thumbs up. Go ahead and subscribe to my channel and turn on the post notifications so that you're notified of the next time that I post a video. And please do follow me on Twitter. My Twitter will be in the description below. And yeah, thank you again so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!